Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. One interesting piece of news that I think is absolutely worth discussing, and it's the fact that for the first time that I'm aware of since the season ended, Mark Pope talked publicly on Wednesday afternoon. Now, look, maybe there was an interview at the Final Four with College Game Day or Jay Billis or whatever. I don't know. But I haven't seen him talk very much about next season's 2025-2026 roster with good reason. Pieces are coming, pieces are going. The roster is mostly set. But what is also worth noting is that there's always subject to change. Otega Owe is testing the draft waters, whatever. Bring it up because on Wednesday, Mark Pope did sit down with John Rothstein from CBS. Very good interview. Listen to it on Thursday morning, where he kind of revealed a lot of different things about this upcoming season. Okay, so we just talked about it in regards to St. John's, but this is a team that's going to have Jaden Quaintance, Mo Diabate, Jaylen Low at point guard. And so what I want to do is just talk a little bit about the interview itself, but then really what we learned about what Mark Pope thinks about this 2025-2026 roster, okay? So the first thing I do want to talk about is the returnees, okay? Because I'm really excited for some of these guys. Otega Owe, I think could be like SEC Player of the Year if things go well, assuming he comes back, he's testing the draft waters. I think Brandon Garrison's due for a big leap. By the way, apparently people were upset with what I said about Colin Chandler the other day. I mean, I said I think he's going to be like the 8th, 9th guy. People were like, no, he's not. I'm like, well, I mean, do the math. I mean, he's a very good player. I think he could play in the NBA someday, but you look at the roster that has been put together, he's probably going to be the 8th, 9th guy. So Trent Noah's coming back, Colin Chandler, Brandon Garrison, and Otega Owe. Producer Matt, why don't you go ahead and play what Mark Pope had to say about the returnees, this via John Rothstein's podcast.
Which second-year players specifically in your system do you anticipate will make a major jump during the 25-26 season?
Yeah, I think all of them. I think Brandon Garrison, man, he's shown even in this young offseason, he is hungry right now. You know, he's a McDonald's All-American who had an unbelievable first year at Oklahoma State as a freshman, and then clearly took a massive jump forward last year. And I think he's ready to emerge as a superstar, and he understands how huge this summer is for him. He's really focused. He's got a very precise agenda, things he's working on. Mm-hmm. And I know he's really hungry. I expect Colin Chandler to take a massive jump. He showed huge strides in the last month of the season, and he's got limitless capacity to be really special. And this Trent Noah, I'm telling you, this Trent Noah is a baller, okay? He is a big-time basketball player. He's going to bring over the next seasons, he's going to bring some incredible physicality and skill and toughness. That's going to make everybody here proud. Otega is going through this draft process, and we're cheering for him every step of the way. But I know a lot of his heart is back here at Kentucky. And if he does return, he'll probably return as the presumptive, SEC Player of the Year favorite. And clearly he's got a beautiful future ahead of him.
So listen, I think first of all, you have to be excited if you're a Kentucky fan because of the returning pieces, right? We all, and I include myself this time of year, we get so excited about the transfers, about the this, about the that, about the 5 stars, whatever. As Mark Pope said, the success of any program is going to be in who you return, right? You go back to this past season, Auburn, #1 team in the country for most of the season. The whole team was basically back except for Todd Pettiford. Janai Broome was back. Chad Baker-Mazara was back. Chaney Johnson, on and on. Auburn, Florida, Walter Clayton, Will Richard. Houston brought back basically everybody. So to me, you're bringing back pieces. There's another part of the interview where Mark Pope talks about just the way it's going to make things easier in practice, where everybody knows the language, everybody knows how to communicate, and how the players that have been there can kind of communicate with the guys that are coming in. So I think one, that has to have you excited, is I'm with him. I said it a minute ago. I think Otega Owe can be an all-SEC type player, maybe SEC Player of the Year. And I think if you just watch Brandon Garrison, I just think he is due for a monster season if everything goes well and if he improves the way that I think we all think he can. What was equally interesting from Mark Pope, there was a couple other interesting quotes about some of the new guys. Producer Matt, on the lower ticker, you can go ahead and put that Jaden Quaintance quote, because that was the first one that caught my attention. So Mark Pope on Jaden Quaintance. We are in a full rush, okay? And so remember with Jaden Quaintance is dealing with an injury, and Mark Pope said, when I say full rush, we're going to rush back to 100% complete health. And so we're optimistic that we're going to have really, really good results in the fall. We'll see how that goes, but we're really going to rush him back to get to 100% healthy before we roll him out there on the court, okay? So first of all, with the Jaden Quaintance stuff, one, don't want to spoil things. I'm hoping to have him on the podcast sometime here soon. But two, one thing I'll say is that, one, he's an amazing player. And I said this the other day, and of course, people were just flat out wrong. I said the guy averaged 9.5 points, 8 boards, 2.5 blocks as a 17-year-old in the Big 12. And people said, oh, what's the big deal? Jeremiah Fears was 17. No, Jeremiah Fears was 18 years old. Jeremiah Fears, of course, played at Oklahoma. Jeremiah Fears was basically a full year older than Jaden Quaintance. How about Cooper Flagg? Cooper Flagg, we lauded him because he was only 18 years old for most of the college basketball season. Jaden Quaintance is like 6 to 7 months younger than Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg born December of 2006. Jaden Quaintance born July of 2007. So do the math. That's about 8 months younger. And so as a true freshman, Jaden Quaintance, he played the entire season as a 17-year-old. He is a guy who averaged about 10 points, 8 boards, 2.5 blocks per game. And I'm just here to tell you, if it all clicks, oh my goodness, it is game on. By the way, as far as the injury is concerned, I think it's worth noting. I've talked to people around him, and Jaden Quaintance has done a few interviews where he said the same, but he basically said, like, look, I expect to be back on the court, ready to go for the start of the season. As I've told you many times, my understanding is that barring something surprising and unexpected, he'll be cleared to return to the court maybe like mid to late August, and he'll be ready for 5-on-5 probably in September, which then sets you up for a situation where, oh, by the way, he could, be ready to go for the start of the season. So one, you have that exciting piece of news from Jaden Quaintance. I think he'll be ready to play. I think he could be one of the best players in the SEC. Then there was the talk about Jaylen Low. Okay, so Jaylen Low, for those of you who don't remember, he is the new point guard, came from Pitt. Okay, really good player, 17 points per game, about 5.5 assists per game. Not a great three-point shooter, but he is so athletic that I ultimately think that he is going to be a guy that steps into this system and has immediate success. Well, you know who else feels that way? Mark Pope does, because here's what he said on Jaylen Low, his new point guard. I'm excited to get him here and hyper speed his game. We're really going to unleash him and push him to play with as much pace as he possibly can. He's just so athletic. He's got such a herky-jerky nature to his game. He's like an elite level tailback that can cut, like his cuts could be a 270 degree on a dime kind of cut, change direction, things of that nature. I mean, I'll tell you this, he's another one that I am just so excited about to see this coming season because, listen, first of all, Lamont Butler, if he had been healthy, would have been all SEC first team. He might have been. I can't remember how all the SEC teams ranked out. But I think Jaylen Low is going to be a different kind of point guard for Mark Pope in Kentucky. And I'll say this, Mark Pope at that team's best, they were playing so fast, so athletic, so up and down this past year. I think they can play even faster, and I think Jaylen Low is going to be the X factor in that. Super athletic point guard, as Mark Pope said, quick twitch kid, and I think he is going to be the head of the snake. I thought it was also interesting in the interview, Mark Pope kind of referenced, oh, by the way, basically he said something about as far as next year's team is concerned, he kind of referenced like, oh, by the way, Jaylen Low was the guy. Remember, I think about 4 or 5 of the guys on next year's team all took visits this weekend. Denzel Aberdeen did, Mo Diabate did, but he said that Jaylen Low was the guy that was kind of bringing everybody together, getting everybody kind of, communicating at the dinner table when they all went out to dinner. He was the one asking questions, things like that. And so I think Kentucky fans are going to be excited to see him kind of develop and kind of evolve and kind of be the guy that kind of is the leader, of that team, and really kind of the, the guy that, again, I just think I don't want to say everything's going to run through him, but I think he is going to be an important piece of what they do and how they do it. And I'm with Mark Pope, is I think because he played for Pitt, because that team wasn't very good, I think there's a possibility that he's even better than people think. And I think what's most important with him is he's a player who I think is going to be better when he has more talent around him. You think about the fact he averaged 5.5 assists per game, and I'm not even sure that the talent around him was very good. I think you got to be excited about having him if you are a Kentucky fan. Finally, I'll say this, is that I'm trying to find the quote here, because the other thing that caught my attention from this interview is that basically Mark Pope was asked if he was done putting together this roster. And I bring it up because he basically said, first of all, he said what we said on the show. Let me see if I can just find the quote. I think I wrote it down. Okay, here we go. So he basically was asked about the team. And if you remember, they were at 13. Travis Perry enters the transfer portal right before the portal closes. And we talked about, like, is there another guy in the portal? Do you need to add another guy? Should you add another guy? And what I basically said was this, is I said, look, there is someone somewhere that is going to want the opportunity to play Kentucky. Maybe a fifth-year guy, maybe a transfer guy, maybe a younger guy that's just like, you know what? I've been playing at this low level in front of 250 fans, in front of 500 fans in this conference. I want the opportunity to play in the SEC, maybe the best conference in college basketball. And I want to be able to play with the best players on the best team on the biggest stage of college basketball. Well, I bring it up because Mark Pope was asked if his roster is done and asked about the roster. And Mark Pope said, I'd like to play them all. I have 12 guys that will help us, and we're actually going to try to round out this roster. I love this quote. I'm actually scouring the planet right now for guys that would fit in as maybe a redshirt guy that would kill it in practice, or be a last-year guy of your career that wants to come here and put on this one-of-a-kind jersey and be a part of this. So first of all, I love the scouring the globe quote. Like, got somebody in Antarctica right now. Like, is he looking for pickup games in Antarctica or Asia or wherever? But it's clear to me that the roster is not done. But again, I think that at this point we have to remember, if the house settlement thing passes through, you're going to be up to 15 scholarship players. And so you can bring in 2 to 3 players and you just say, look, you're probably not going to play. You're probably not going to get very much NIL, but you can be a part of this. And again, it's going to appeal to somebody. It's not going to appeal to everybody, but it's going to appeal to somebody. And so I'm curious, how do they fill out this roster? By the way, he mentioned scouring the planet. Is it somebody international? Is it somebody that's not on our radar? I don't know. But what I do know is I don't think this roster is quite done. I think, by the way, it's just kind of a side note. I think a lot of people, a lot of schools right now are trying to find that 11th, 12th, 13th guy that's really just more of a practice player. So I'll be curious to see how it shapes up for everybody. I know like UConn is still in the mix for 2 or 3 guys that really won't have very much of a role next year. BYU, who we're going to talk about in half a second, just took a guy who's probably going to be like their 8th guy next year. So it's an interesting scenario, but Mark Pope had a lot to say. But I think the one thing that I learned in that interview, that guy likes his team. It sounds like he is fired up to coach them. I am fired up to watch them. And as I said a minute ago, we're going to get plenty of opportunities because they got Michigan State. They got Louisville at Louisville. They got Indiana at Rupp, Gonzaga in Nashville, and, of course, now St. John's in Atlanta. What a season it is going to be. By the way, follow our Torres on UK account. And if you're fired up for the season, you don't got to wait. Hope and Pope, baby. Get that Hope and Pope t-shirt. Should mention, by the way, we have limited sizes, but if you order today, we can probably get it to you for Mother's Day, certainly for Father's Day. Hope and Pope, Aaron Torres, online.com/merchandise.